Vanessa Reid is an English teacher in Atlanta who writes about the human monsters that hunt us and haunt us. A member of the Broadleaf Writers Association and the Horror Writers Association, Reid lives with her adorably macabre family, an evil cat named Moreland, and a dog who tries to avoid his wrath. Vanessa, please take it away.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Vanessa Reid, and tonight I'll be reading the beginning of my short story, Everything is Okay. I'm also giving away a copy of the fourth Corona Book of Horror stories, which contains my short story, Sunday Supper. He broke my daughter's heart that day. That's how I ended up there, folded around her in her tiny childhood bed, one large spoon cradling a smaller one. She slept hard, and her faded blush quilt dotted with vanishing roses draped over us. A few more washes and the yellow ones would be gone. I was holding her so fiercely, my shoulders ached. She shifted slightly, and I heard her sigh. She'll be all right. She's tougher than she looks, but I'm not sure I am. I buried my face in her corn silk hair and inhaled the warm honey scent that surrounded her since they ripped her out of me. She didn't want to come either. She was 2 ornery weeks late. She even tried to breathe in my belly, to live there forever. That's when I knew they'd have to pull her out. They wanted to cut me, but I said no, not after 4 hours of labor and 2 hours of pushing. But after she finally slid out in a hot, bloody gush, they cleaned her, I held her, and she smelled like warm honey every day after. I turned to bury my face in her neck to breathe her in more deeply. She would wake soon, and she would cry a little more, take a shower, and go back to her dorm. She visited less and less, called less and less. So for that moment, I buried my face in her velvety neck and inhaled. A few strands of her silky fine hair stuck to my lips. Overcome by the scent of honey, I touched my tongue tentatively to the strands. Instead of irritating my mouth, her hair melted against my tongue like spun sugar. I rolled the sweetness around in my mouth, feeling it liquefy, candied warmth that slipped down my throat. I closed my eyes and followed its glimmer down my esophagus and into my belly where it tickled, radiating sunshine and light. I opened my mouth wider, taking a great greedy bite this time, and her hair dissolved into a plunge of hot sugar while I swallowed in one bruising gulp. It hit my blood and my insides turned and crawled, arguing and rearranging themselves while my daughter breathed softly. My heart pounded and I pulled away to avoid waking her with my spasming belly. Then it quieted. Relieved, I slid back into my place and curled around my daughter, but something great shifted inside me. She must have felt it too because she stirred and I pulled her closer. But before I could settle against her again, a hot rush swiped my gut like a burning iron, twisting from the inside. I looked down and lifted my nightgown. I watched with horrified excitement as a line sunk into my belly from stem to stern, like sand slipping into a silent desert earthquake. A golden light glowed beneath my stretching skin, and as the line pulled open, its rays sprayed upward, coloring my daughter in a sparkling straw glow. They split, then the split spread feverishly, and when I saw its perfection, I knew it was an entrance. I pulled my gown over my head, tossed it to the floor, and quietly scooted my naked body against hers. Then I gently pulled her inside me. I knew that I had to go slow for fear of waking her. I didn't want to scare her. She'd had enough pain for one night. The streak along me had become a glowing cavern, allowing her to sink into me, and my body split seamlessly, enveloping her torso, her hips, her legs, her feet. The seam of my skin slipped around her as an envelope, like a pink velvet pouch, and as I pressed her shoulders into my chest and her sweet head began to follow, she turned to me, eyes still closed in weary sleep. "Mama?" she asked softly. "Shh, baby, it's okay." Then my body sealed up cleanly around her, and the glorious light went out. She was gone. But she wasn't. She was inside me again. I could feel her weight. She fit perfectly inside me. Perfect. Safe. I looked at her body's indentions on the sheets and put my palm on the bed, still warm. She had been there. It had happened. I rubbed my flat belly. There was no outward sign, but she was there. I could feel her. Her solid weight filled me. I sat up, eased off the bed, firmly put my feet on the floor and stood up. No, it wasn't a burden. She was there, but instead of me feeling heavy and awkward, she rooted my body to the floor. The connection was solid and strong. I took a tentative step. Yes, it was more than me, but it was a sure step. I took another, and they were good steps. I walked faster. I paced the room until I knew my body again. I scooped up my nightgown, pulled it over my head, and went to the window. The afternoon was waning with the late winter sun holding on. The birds hopped hopefully from the ground to the tree limbs and back again, and I knew where I must take her before dark. Her favorite place as a child, Bonnie Fountain Memorial Park. In the shower, I marveled at my absoluteness, the gentle movements and warm water soothing us both. She continued to sleep, so I moved tenderly, caressing my belly lovingly with the washcloth. It wasn't bulging like the first time she was inside me, but the familiar moment was unconscious. I dried myself slowly, dressed warmly, and headed for the 5-block walk to the park. Her daddy and I used to push the stroller together, his hand on the right handle and mine on the left. When she was old enough to walk by herself, he held her right hand and I held her left. It's funny how we stuck to our side. After he died, I still held her left hand. Even when she was too old, she still let me. Now I walk with heavy, sure steps, both hands on my belly, feeling her solidness inside me. I pass a jogger. She didn't know. She looked ahead and blew great puffs of hot mist into the cold air. How much she missed. If only she knew, she would want to stop and touch me, touch my belly, ask about her. What was she like? How she was magic. I passed an old man with a small dog, and he tipped his hat graciously and smiled. I'm not sure if he knew. He may have, or perhaps he was just being polite. I've always liked old men in hats. They knew the right kind of world, the slow, generous one, the one you took time with. But his dog sure knew. The little white fluffy creature pranced right up, tail wagging furiously. When he nosed my stomach familiarly and head-butted me for scratches, the old man marveled. Minnow doesn't like anyone. He smells my daughter. She must be special, he grinned. She is. Headed to the park? I nodded. It was a fine day for it, but it's getting late, miss. He tipped his hat and pulled Minnow on. When we reached the park, I knew exactly where to go, her favorite spot. We reached the ancient oak tree just as a young couple packed up their picnic. They smiled as they headed on their way, blanket and basket in hand, and I believe she winked at me. Women just know. I sat cross-legged under the tree, feeling the cool breeze lift my hair, and I closed my eyes. Memories of her nursing her under this tree, her greedy slurps earning her daddy's nickname Gobble. She hated that. And her daddy creating the most fanciful picnics under this tree, complete with fairy cakes and sparkling cider. She and her friends playing on the jungle gym at the bottom of the hill, while other parents and I watched and shared fears and milestones. She told me she'd had her first kiss when she was in 9th grade here, Stephen Pierce. His braces cut her lip, but he had the prettiest eyes, she said. We love this place, this tree, these moments.